This is the Business of Apps podcast, bringing you actionable insights from the leaders of the global app industry and the world's fastest growing apps. You can find more app news, data, and analysis over at businessofapps.com.
Welcome to the Business of Apps podcast. On this show, we invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful but brief. In this episode, we have Jeff Wang, VP of Growth at Hiatus. Jeff, welcome to the Business of Apps podcast.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Terrific. Thanks for coming, Jeff. All right. I don't think anybody in the app industry would argue with the fact that growth is what occupies app marketers and developers' mind all the time. From Monday to Friday, and unfortunately quite often from Friday to Monday as well, people do mental gymnastics for how to make their apps growth more efficient. But you cannot improve anything you cannot measure. What analytic reports are important to check regularly to measure your app's growth? How do we do incrementality growth analysis? I invited Jeff to riddle these puzzling questions for you. Jeff, let's talk about your background in tech first.
Yeah, so I'm fairly new to tech. I've actually only been here for about 2.5 years. My very first entry into tech was to be head of marketing, so that was quite a shock to get into things. Learned a lot along the way, and just got a really good opportunity, I think. I was in retail for 2.5 years, working with big brands such as like Forever 21, Nordstrom, and all of those guys on the agency side for large global marketing agencies. And then I got a DM from a CEO of a startup. They were looking to build out their marketing team from scratch. They wanted someone that can be on the tactical side, but also with an eye towards strategy and leadership, with a potential for the former and definitely an ability for the tactical. So they can tell that I could do the tactical side, and we've done pretty well the past 2.5 years, able to take on more of those VP responsibilities. So I've gone from being like a single marketing channel all the way up into multiple marketing channels, lots of people on the team, building out many sides of marketing, and learning a lot of the tech business along the way.
Oh, that's great. So you're saying 2.5 years ago, roughly speaking, the inception of COVID in 2020, right? Or like mid 2020.
I think it was around the time people were scared to maybe leave jobs, so they had to take a chance on someone that was maybe on the younger side. So I definitely took advantage of that when people weren't leaving.
Boy, time ran so fast. 2.5 years ago, it feels like ages ago because of so much things have happened ever since that time. Now, tell us please about your company, Hiatus. What do you guys do? Pretty interesting name for a company.
Yeah, so we do personal fintech. We've been around for 7 years. We raised a seed round in, I think, 2016 and haven't raised any series funding since. So we've been self-sustained, whether through traditional financing, but we're mostly a private company. I think we're more private than most tech startups. But we've done quite a few things. We've built out a lot of tools in the wealth management space, especially when it comes down to consumer finances with subscriptions, billing, and budgeting. And we started to round out our offerings with more periphery products, with partnering with financial product players in the space, as well as building out our own content. Like, we've done a lot to build out our creative team. So becoming a more rounded, all-in-one financial marketplace for consumers, that's where we're headed, and we've made some good progress, especially the last 2 or 3 years.
So you're helping all of us to handle this never-ending stream of subscriptions. Apple Music, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and on. So many subscriptions for content, your finance, and yeah, it's one of the things that you don't realize that there's actually can be You can actually find a company that can help you out to make sense of all this crazy list of subscriptions that add on and slowly but surely make a mess of your personal finance. So I see you have like 2 million people you've helped over the 7 years. So that's just the number of, I'm not saying, at one point, but aggregatedly, like in total, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, before moving to the reports specifically, let's define some terms quickly we're going to be mentioning later. So what do we mean by cohort and funnel in digital marketing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to marketing than just those two things, but I guess to define it for what it means to us, for a cohort, it's usually, since we're a subscription product with a monthly pay cycle, I'm sure our cohort is going to look different from other people, like whatever matters the most to their business. But for us, it's usually customers acquired within a certain time frame. So it'd be like the April cohort or the March cohort to look at what their behavior is in terms of payment retention as well as user engagement. We also define it in terms of marketing channels, so where they came from this source or that source. And we also do it through lifecycle segmentation. So we have these groups of users who are at this stage of onboarding or at this, or they like using this feature. So we also do it that way. There's a lot of ways to define it depending on your business and what you're looking for in marketing, what you're trying to do. And then for funnel, we actually don't use funnel too much. For us, we are a pretty quick consideration product. Subscription management is a hot topic. So if you give them a brief explainer in like 5-10 minutes, they either decide to want to do it or not. There's not like a long consideration period. So there's not a lot of nurturing that happens. Post acquisition, there's an entire onboarding funnel that you can look at, but I generally don't use funnels. I just say like, does this content work or does it not work? Is this driving customers or is it not driving customers? What I do when I look at the funnel is to support my content production to see, okay, so are we getting attention? Are we getting engagement? Are we getting conversions? That's where I look at the funnel to build the content, but the funnel itself isn't like a key feature. It's more of a supporting metric for me.
Gotcha. So in your specific case, in your business, it's pretty straightforward. Once people are introduced to the concept, they can see the value right away. And it's not like, regular nurturing in a marketing when people can go through the multiple stages of a funnel. For you, it's pretty much either people are on board or not, right? It's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's closer to e-commerce or gaming apps where you're not gonna try to convince someone over several weeks to play like Clash of Clans, for example.
Exactly. Right. So now, what specific reports do you guys personally use at work and why?
Um, so I use a lot. I think in the beginning it was a lot simpler when we were a smaller team. I think when I joined, we were like 5 to 8 people, went down to 6 just through like natural attrition, and then now we're at closer to 20. So I could spend all day looking at reports, especially when you're leading teams. It's really important to get a sense of business impact to guide workflows as well as strategical direction. Um, but yeah, in terms of what I use though, I think customer quality is really important. Just seeing what users are doing post acquisition. Are they an engaged user? Are they signing for premium? All that good stuff. Customer acquisition reports, what are the CACs for different sources and user acquisition. In a life cycle, I'm looking at, is this campaign influencing retention? Are we getting win back? Is this improving conversion rate and onboarding? There's larger retention reports, like how much voluntary, how much involuntary churn there is. I look at CX or feedback reports, like what users are giving us in terms of qualitative feedback. So the list kind of goes on and on and on. And that's a good thing because you don't want to like just have like a small set of reports to get every day. We have a large set that you look at when it makes sense to.
Right. So you go over the reports on a daily basis, right? From Monday to Friday to make sure you always keep your hand on the pulse.
I mean, we're a small company, so I have to do a lot of the hands-on stuff and a lot of the active management. Sometimes I have to show someone how to build a campaign and build it
Any
alongside them. So
uh,
it's really like a pick and choose, like what I need to look at today.
any alerts that gives you a quick alert that something goes off, or you just have to look at the report, take a glance on general view and see are we in term like are we still in the corridor, is still within the limits do we need to be, right? So there's no way to automate this thing. You have to look for each report on a daily basis and see are we good or not. Like, I mean, if you're, let's say, setting up a Google alert for mention on the Google for your company name, you can open your email in the morning and see if your company was in a specific publication, just an example. So in your case, all reports you're looking at, they require attention, right?
Yeah, exactly. One really good tip I would give is to have a regular cadence for certain reports. On a weekly basis, I compile a bunch of them together for the team to look at, like a media report, like what are our CACs between different channels, what is our LTV, some commentary on some tactics and campaigns we're running for some of our major channels, as well as a lifecycle report on a weekly basis, looking at what are those campaigns doing. So there's some things I think you should really just have the discipline of looking at on a regular cadence. So I think that's really key to marketing, is not to do things completely ad hoc, just like whatever feels right in the moment. Is to look at things more like long term and in regular cycles, so you can find the patterns. And regular reporting in a cadence makes the most sense for that.
See, so I do hope when you go on a vacation, you can actually unplug yourself, checking reports for that week or hopefully 2 weeks, right? And somebody has to replace you in the company for doing that.
Yeah, I mean that'd be great if you had maybe 50 plus people in the company.
Yeah.
But the way to do that as a small company, like we still have a really good work-life balance. Surprisingly so, I think both of our founders have really young kids. They just had their first kid, I think, after I joined when we were maybe like less than 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
So at least for my team, like how I've set it up is to make it very there's a lot of attention to detail, so that nothing really breaks. Like I have a really insane QA process. Like if something goes out, it's unlikely to be a problem, so no one has to come in on the weekends, because I know running the marketing program, in the past especially, I would have to be the one that fixes it no matter where I am. They can't be like, all right, someone else is, like not at a bar or something, like I would have to run home or something. So like that's why I think like making a really strong QA system when you're a small company is important for that work-life balance. And also it's the kind of marketing you do. Like you can do a lot of things that are set and forget, as long as you have a good schedule. Like you don't shouldn't be putting stuff out on the weekends. And they're pretty automated too, if you for most digital marketing.
That's very great point, Jeff. You're running a business that like you're not running a company for a few months, for a few weeks. You're in the business for years and years. So it's a long run, it's the marathon. And if you don't set up from day one or, in a quick period of time at the beginning, the way that you can actually go on vacation, make your break on on the weekend or any holiday, you will be gone crazy trying to catch up later, or just like you're saying, interrupt your leisure time and just jump back to work. That's not a sustainable way of doing your business, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta think about talent retention too. It's just so hard to find really good talent and keep them. So it's good to treat them well, and finding good workflow practices is definitely achievable. That like is not going to burn people out.
Right. So let's dive deeply into the most important report for a net marketer to use. Like if you can pick up the one.
Um, yeah, I think anything related to day-to-day revenue. So that it's different for different apps. For us, it's a large chunk of our revenue comes from premium subscribers. So I almost refresh this report like almost every 30 minutes. I try to do more often or less often than that because that's too soon. But uh, I do like to refresh my daily acquisition report, just seeing how many premium subscribers we're getting. Because that's like one of our biggest impacts on revenue, what's going to result in performance for the company. So whatever is the biggest driver for the company, to have that at hand is important.
Right. So, so far we talk about the reports that are kind of a tactical. So, what about this strategic stuff? What about the reports that you're not checking like on a daily basis, but less frequent? What are these?
Yeah, so I think reading your user feedback, especially your bad reviews every day is a little unhealthy, but doing that on some cadence to understand what your users are saying qualitatively is really good for your business to understand how to do things better. I think since we're a subscription product, looking at churn is really useful. So seeing what that month to month looks like for the yearly plans, how that's shaping up, looking at the cohort behavior for what led to better and worse customers. Those are all good stuff to look at on a larger cycle. Um, and then if you have like a payment processing system, you can look at different items on the income statement, like what are the biggest elements to it, even if it's not in marketing, you can see how that's changing or what you can do to improve it as a business. Like if you're doing a lot of really good stuff on the engineering or financial side, then you can adjust what you're doing in marketing. So that's looking across the business. I think it's useful as someone in marketing should be looking or talking to like finance and the other teams.
Gotcha, Jeff. Okay. Next point is incrementality. I think I've heard this term like 5 or 6 years ago, maybe more, when though the era of quick exponential growth for like the bulk of apps on the app market was over, and people were looking for ways to continue to grow, and like the only logical answer was incremental growth. And you could hear this term on any presentation from somebody from a ad network, DSP platform, a marketing agency. So how do we do incrementality growth analysis for popular marketing platforms? Just a general scheme, your approach.
First off, I don't think incrementality is something you should ignore at any phase in any economy, whether it's high growth or low growth or whatever you want to call it. You should always be trying to find what is incremental performance. Like even if you have access to a lot of capital, you want to make the most of it so you can grow faster instead of a leap, you go to this massive, massive jump. So I think incrementality is always going to be useful. And I have some commentary on what to be doing differently nowadays. But related to your question, incrementality, I think the way to do it for popular marketing platforms, it's somewhat of an art as well as a science. It really depends on how you want to go about it. So for maybe less popular, more traditional marketing platforms like TV, radio, I think surveys are really useful. But for the matter at hand for digital marketing, I think everyone should be looking into marketing mix modeling. It's pretty accessible, actually. It's not as crazy as you think it'd be. I actually partnered with a local college in New York. They have a data science department. So I know a professor there. He needed a class project. So we worked together to make a media mix model. We just basically tested different regression models and saw how well it fit the data. I learned like what it looks like from the inside, what a good media mix model is, what a bad one is. I think just outsourcing it completely to Nielsen or some other big institution is probably going to be expensive and you won't be able to evaluate exactly what your marketing is doing. I think any marketer that loses touch with the impact of their marketing is not a great thing. And I know it's difficult it seems scary to do data science, but I think it's worth the effort. For something that's probably a little bit easier to do is to try and find other parallel deterministic tracking. So for example, recently, like our pixels report is our number, but we also have URL UTM tracking for web traffic, and I know that's not for app. But if you see how the platform will report on a pixel, that way you can tell if they're grading their homework correctly, basically, using web as a parallel to app.
Speaking of measuring the traffic for a website, how do you guys like GA4, the new update from Google, from the Google Analytics? Are everybody okay with the new platform?
I don't use GA4 too much. I know that's like a hot take. I know it's a very popular thing to use Google Analytics, but I use our internal database. So I work because we're such a small company. We didn't even have Google Analytics when I started. I do use it nowadays for some SEO stuff, but like the engineers are like, if you want to look at things, just use our database. So I already knew some SQL. I learned how to write some more SQL like while doing the job, and I just create our own BI reports via um, Mode, like our BI tool, to interface with our database directly. Just looking at our event tracking, which we use Segment as our CDP. We've been using Amplitude in the past for some other kinds of analysis, but GA is not something I use too much. It's more so just for like a quick fix before I build something more robust in Mode.
Actually, I was just asking because Google has done this really monumental, fundamental update for the interface, for the whole logistics of how reports have been compiled, how they presented. Like it's like a brand new platform if you think about it. So people have mixed feelings about this update. Are this for the better, or just going to create a chaos for so many people once it's been like the only option for to use starting actually this July. But yeah, it's always great if you can use a number of other tools. You're not relying on one tool for measuring your performance, either mobile or desktop. Finally, do you have any takeaways for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, since it seems to be a hot topic that is an age of profitable growth, I think it's a little bit overstated, but it's I think any senior marketer should just keep the business objectives in mind at any phase of growth. Like I know nowadays, due to like the finance team having to work with different funding schedules, I think at any point in a business's growth, it's worth talking to them, figuring out what your objectives are, and evaluating what risk level you want to take, what reward, what upside you want to potentially have for your growth schedule. So just having that conversation and then changing the strategic plan of marketing on regular cycles based off of your talks with the finance team. Like they're saying, you need to grow by this amount, this efficiently, then you can set your marketing projects to suit that risk reward level. So that's going to change at any phase of an economic cycle. So it's just up to you to talk to them and find out what the best fit between marketing and finances.
Gotcha, Jeff. Okay, we're moving on from the first to the second part of the show, where I take a chance to ask just a few quick questions to every guest who come on the show, because this is my way of helping our audience, people who are listening to us, know people who are coming on the show a little bit better. Just not only the topic we're covering, but know them in person a little bit better. Here we go. What smartphone do you have now, and have you been switching between these two giants, or being a fan of one platform all the time?
I like to experiment with both. So I don't know if it's because I'm a marketer, but I like to use every social media, all different types of operating systems. I was iPhone initially, and I think I'm more Android. I've tried the Pixel, just I did a lot of Google Ads advertising at one point, and I think the Pixel is just amazing. Google's done a great job with it.
So you're taking from both worlds. Before existing of both iOS and Android, we used to have these flip phones, or now we call them featured phones, the first mobile phone you could put in your pocket. Do you remember what was your first mobile phone before iPhone?
Yeah, I mean, there was something really popular, like one of the flip phones. I think it was like the Samsung chocolate. I don't know exactly what it was, but middle school was really cool. And then I remember in high school, I got like a keyboard phone from Google, which was I thought the coolest thing to text on a keyboard. Like I don't know, in high school that was it would just make texting more fun. So
Yeah, keyboard and a smartphone. Kids these days cannot appreciate this idea because it's way before their time. Now imagine you left your home and you forgot your smartphone. It's still in your home, sitting in our kitchen table, and you're out. What is the most missing feature for you at that point?
Google Maps. I live in New York. Uh,
Oh, that
I've used
explains a
it
lot.
to drive across the country, so it's a great app. I don't know what people I know what people used to do actually, and it's terrible. So this is it's an amazing. I couldn't even get around without it.
Gotcha, Jeff. Yeah, it's especially when you live in a big city like New York, to get around. If you're not a taxi driver and you wasn't born here, you gotta have a good map app in your pocket and your phone. Now, when you look at your smartphone right now, can you think of anything you wish that thing could do for you, hardware, software, some feature, maybe not brand new one, but the evolution of an improvement of an existing feature, something for you specifically that would make it better as a tool.
Yeah, I think people are gonna hate this, but I actually really like having Slack, email, even Discord on my phone. I actually have done my own side project, entrepreneur stuff for ever since the pandemic started. I had a lot of time and I fell in love with starting my own business stuff slash artistic pursuits at this point. But just talking to being able to work from anywhere is awesome and can't imagine how much less effective I'd be without it.
Gotcha, Jeff. Okay, before I let you go, how can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
LinkedIn's the best, especially for this kind of stuff. I think in the future I'll have an online presence for my video game studio. I do kind of as a hobby, kind of as a business, and want to do real estate investing. So if you hear about me from there, then I did really well. Hopefully that happens, but LinkedIn's definitely the best for now.
Terrific. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for coming on our show and spending time with us. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks for
And
having me.
And that was Jeff Wang, VP of Growth at Hiatus. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. Remember, we release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe and you'll be able to get new episodes on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as we release them. And please don't forget to leave us a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Business of Apps podcast. For more, head on over to businessofapps.com.